Hello, hello. Let me go ahead and get that audio check real quick. Get that out the way before we start this absolutely 100% freestyle presentation. Good audio. Thank you. Hi, Victoria. Shiva Shampoo. I just read that long quote you just did. Who are you quoting? Oh, the consummate artist. Great Awaken the Immortal Within rendition you did. All right. I'll start answering questions here in a little while. Rules of the house. Questions are to be in all caps. In the live chat, ordinarily, I will delete comments that are all capital letters in the comment sections below videos, because then you're just being disrespectful. You're just screaming at people. But in the live chat, that's how I see a question, as opposed to internal dialogue between you guys. If it's in all caps, I know you're asking me something, and I will address it. So, a lot of questions, a lot of comments. I will listen, guys. Nothing has changed in my operations. Some people have found this, untenable and uncomfortable, and they left Archaix, and I'm cool with that. But I'm not going to change at all. And when I see negativity, disrespect, or just asking questions, just trying to needle someone, even me, I don't care. I have zero tolerance, and I've never changed that policy. In the last 3 days, I have probably blocked 700 people from Archaix, and I don't care. Archaix is growing on a daily basis, despite all the people that are being blocked. They're being blocked for very good reason. A lot of these are just shills and trolls from Gaia, ancient aliens, and others that are just here to stir up the pot. I don't care. I don't give a damn. I'm a one-man operation when it comes to the content I put on Archaix. Yes, I have a team, and yes, they do help me with a lot of ancillary stuff. But when it comes to the Archaix content, I am 100% in control of that, and I'm 100% responsible for it as well. I keep my community very clean. Now, you don't get it both ways. If you're defending ancient aliens or Gaia Network, that's fine, but you don't come here with some disrespectful content and try to defend that, and at the same time admit that your heroes are going to hide behind all kinds of contracts and not debate me over the issues. You don't get it both ways. So all you got to do is raise your head up in my comment section. I'm going to cut it off. Simple as that. Other than that, let's have a good time. Oh, let me get to the bottom of this chat because you guys are moving. Yeah, man. Yeah, the trolls are too organized, guys. They're financed. 100%. You say the trolls are now moving over to decode your reality? Yeah. They're financed, guys. This is way too much of a coordinated effort. That's okay. All right. One interesting individual I blocked just got a little too aggressive with his talking about the second seal material. And I'm going to tell you now, when World War II was unfolding, when several million people were being exterminated, the official story of World War II doesn't scratch the surface as to what was really happening and how the war was being used to cover up genocides everywhere else. Even into 1946, 1947, 48, 49, 50, and 51, genocide continued in the world. In the Western world, in the Middle East, Africa, most of Asia never heard a peep about what was really going on. Just like right now, with all these events popping off in the UK and in Ireland, all the actual people that are nationals of those countries in the British Isles are the ones being arrested, are the ones being harassed, while the the extremists and the migrants are also doing protests, but they're not being arrested. They're not being harassed. They're given freedom of speech. So you need to understand what's really happening here. Your country is already a captured operation. They just haven't told the people yet. Just like the United States of America, which they have to handle a little bit differently because everybody here is armed to the teeth. So they fence Washington, D.C., and they put out the Patriot Pacification regime, and YouTube floods with all these people that are creating content, getting you to believe that there's a plan going on behind the operations, that the military is truly in control. Well, I'm going to tell you now, the military is truly in control. The military industrial complex is not attached to a nation. They serve the controllers. Every branch of the military for every country in the world is serving the same body. Their agenda is to build facilities in the underworld and keep everybody on the surface ignorant, stupefied, and in bickering and fighting amongst each other, because it frees them to be able to do the things they need to do, to put out all kinds of wild rumors about all kinds of mass migrations and new infrastructure being laid in Antarctica when it's really being laid underground. The misdirection is real. It's everywhere. So you have to understand what's going on in the world today is a lot of misdirection. While the media hypes up all these different incidents, you don't get to hear the other side of the story. Now, when Lebanon gets invaded with drones and jets bombing beaches full of people, unarmed civilians, you don't get to see that on mainstream media, but you get to go on BitChute and Twitter and see the aftermath. You get to see what happens. When you look at Gaza and see that it's an absolute war zone and that the media incessantly promotes that there's a huge conflict going on and it's a huge war, but a war requires two participants. So in the info war, an invisible enemy is created, Hamas. But in actuality, the Palestinians don't have armored columns. They don't have Jeeps, Bradley fighting vehicles, surface-to-air missile systems. They don't have anything. They have no Air Force. They have no Navy. And yet, another country invaded them, leveled their cities. Yeah, creates a whole bunch of new real estate. There's a lot of new real estate available over there now. So it kind of makes you wonder what kind of pieces are being moved across the board. You don't hear what's really going on. You hear the official versions. Same thing with those who I just recently blocked because they're getting really aggressive about NASA, defending NASA. I don't need you defending NASA on my channel. If you haven't met God, you can't stand before me and tell me anything other than what I can ascertain through my imagination, empathy, and intuition, and the events of my life that reveal that there's a guiding factor. You can't tell me anything about it. I don't want to hear your OBEs. I don't want to hear your NDEs. Those are highly subjective, individualized experiences that belong to you. They don't belong to me. I don't want to hear you tell me that there's 55,000 employees at NASA and there's no way they could have gotten away with a conspiracy that deep, when you're full of shit. The more participants, the easier to deceive. I've already explained in prior videos how easy it was using the pyramid formula, which is a tier system. When all your employees on the lower tier have to report everything to a higher tier, and the higher tier has to report everything to a higher tier than that, and it goes up the chain, and it forms a pyramid of control. The reason is because each tier is less people involved than the tier below it. And by this way, information is stringently compartmentalized. You can't defend NASA just because you're employed by it. You don't know what's going on the upper tiers. And at the highest levels, they don't know. And the astronauts themselves were even convinced that they were about to go to the moon because they went through the training. And they were forced to go through all this training and for it to be recorded and for the media to be involved, because they knew that in order to pull off the greatest deception of all times, they needed the participants themselves to be deceived. Why do you think the NASA astronauts were so effed up? They look terrible. They look like, I cannot believe I'm sitting here living this lie, when they were supposedly returned. We've all seen the video footage. It's out for everybody to see. We have now seen the NASA Apollo capsules coming out the back of cargo freighters at 70,000 feet or whatever. We've already seen it. So if you've seen it recorded on video, if something is true somewhere, it's an archaics tenet. It's probably true everywhere. If you see a video of a rocket capsule that was supposed to be entering the atmosphere from the moon, then if it's coming out the back of a cargo freighter and a parachute pops out and a naval vessel goes and picks it up, why? Why does that footage exist if that's not how they actually did it? So yeah, I'm not, you'll never, NASA is the greatest intelligence apparatus this world has ever seen. And it's backed up by the establishment. And the establishment is the one that publishes all our textbooks, teaches in all our colleges and all that. That you think that 55,000 people can't be deceived only strengthens my case. Let me see what papers I got here. Oh, I'm sorry, my papers are falling everywhere. Very unorganized today, guys. Sorry. So much. I've been doing so much on my plate. Yeah, it is very easy. So the reason I mentioned war, I started off this conversation with World War II, is because we're here today and we're just fine. Cities have been built, infrastructures have been laid. The population has exploded since World War II. But many, many millions of people died, and it's undocumented. What happened in Poland is largely unknown to the entire world. Some researchers know what happened in Russia after the Bolshevik takeover. Yeah, to create the USSR, what happened to the Russian people? Most people don't even know. Miles and miles and miles of roads of 17, 18, 19-year-old girls crucified. You have no idea what happened behind those enemy lines. But many researchers have uncovered it. But you don't know because the information apparatus available to you today doesn't talk about any of these things. But you can find it in the specialist literature. So don't come to my channel talking about what hasn't happened and what you can't prove and all that. I'm not trying to hear it. I'm just not. The entire world is full of the blind. It is full of misinformation and deception. And as to the best of my ability, I'm going to put out the truth. I'm just going to keep putting it out until I can't. It's just it. So I have zero tolerance. Don't come to my channel with that BS. I don't care. Don't even care. Hey, on a censorship platform like YouTube, don't complain when I censor. Simple as that. Yeah, guys, I got my first strike. Oh, I got my first strike, and it's a bogus one. And I'm not happy with YouTube about it. I really don't care. I can move my content to another platform because, truth be told, I already make way more money on my other platform than YouTube has ever paid me. Because you guys don't see ads. I don't have ads in my videos. I want my information as free as possible to people because I know people's fine. I know it's hard. It's a struggle out there. I used to be a part of it. I started my channel. The first 3.5 years of my channel, I was in that struggle hard. Paradise Rock Gardens, I was working my ass off. I used to show you guys. I used to take you to work with me. I used to come in exhausted and still do videos before I was ever monetized. But believe me, YouTube means nothing to me. I can go to another platform fast. If my channel was deleted tonight, I have 100% of all my videos backed up multiple times, and I can reappear overnight somewhere else. Just don't care. Yeah, I'm not impressed with YouTube at all. So, there's people I would really like to talk to on YouTube, but we can't openly talk about things we want to talk about. I like to have Michael Tessari on back. He and I have already done a video together, but we had to keep it off of YouTube because of the type of things we talk about. Absolute truth. It's on Unslaved on his platform if you want to go see it. If you want to go see my version of it, which is from a different camera angle, you have to go to Archaix TV. So those of you in Archaix TV, get ready. A lot of videos that were taken off of YouTube in the past are going to start appearing on Archaix TV. It's just I have to get ready for that migration because I've got zero tolerance with YouTube at all. I've had it up to here. Had it up to here. My trolls can take all kinds of clips of me and denigrate me and attack my friends and family. There's vicious attacks against my friends and family on YouTube. The videos are out. There's like 57 videos so far that I'm aware of. And listen, I can't even complain about none of that. It's not even a copyright when they use my voice and use my, but as soon as I expose JDreamers for being a thief, stealing the MCO research, JDreamers, who was attached to those two people that came to my property and had a full dossier and asked me, they paid me $4,000 to take their faces off of YouTube. But that $4,000 was originally going to be paid to me if I agreed to try to bridge my Phoenix phenomenon with JDreamers plasma apocalypse. The whole story starting to come together. This is after Brian and Mia introduced the MCO research and then turned around and ended up dead. I have the coroner's reports. They didn't disappear. They're dead. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes or how deep JDreamers is in the intelligence community. I think he's just low-level scum that they're using, but he's definitely involved. So he keeps coming up and popping up at the weird places, attacking me, writing the courts, writing my judge. Yeah, real POS level type shit. But in the end, how am I supposed to interpret this when there's 57 videos out there that have gone way beyond anything I did? I didn't even cite a JDreamers video. I cited Mia's new pair of shoes video, which showed pictures of JDreamers when she was talking about CIA shills and thieves in the truther community. Yeah, Jason Tice. But he contacted YouTube and got my video taken down. I didn't even get the obligatory 7-day chance of removing the video to avoid the strike. I just got the video taken down and a strike instantly. So you guys tell me, who is this shill, Jason Tice, that goes by JDreamers, that he can affect a move like that? Because I've never been able to do it. That's crazy. I told you guys intelligence agencies are wrapped up everywhere in this shit. And you know what? They can F off because I've got zero tolerance for them too. Yeah. Screw the FBI, CIA, all of them. I don't care about none of them. So I'm just letting you guys know. YouTube's about to get trimmed all the way down. Videos are going to start disappearing and they're going to my other platform. It's as simple as that. If you want to know how to get on Archaix TV, you can email the Archaix help. But I've got zero tolerance. YouTube's not going to sit here and make money off me. Advertise the shill networks of Gaia, the shill network of ancient aliens. Sit here and advertise Billy Carson's shill network of forbidden knowledge, and then turn around and use prime real estate at the beginning of Archaix videos to show you guys all their ads. Zero tolerance. I'm just not trying to hear it. Not trying to hear it, especially since it appears to me that all three of those shill networks have nothing but hundreds of cowards in their employ, because that's what it is to me, guys. I'm a warrior by nature. I'm just a writer by passion. And in that warrior mentality, to me, you're a coward if you will not publicly defend anything that you have not publicly asserted. You're the worst type of coward. That's straight out of my mouth. That's another Archaix tenet. Well, let's make a t-shirt out of it. All right. So anyway, don't get discouraged. A lot of the Archaix videos are about to get taken off of YouTube and removed. But I'll still be doing my lives here and uploads. But after a while, I don't know, the 21st or 22nd video automatically gets taken somewhere else. I'm not giving YouTube the satisfaction. All right. So the first question I actually see. Oh no! Wait a minute! I can't do that. I keep entertaining these tangents. Back to World War II. We have a problem when people today think that just because the world continues, something didn't come to pass as predicted. You're very wrong. You are very wrong. Look how many of us survived COVID. Look how many of us did not take the vax. Look how many of us took the vax and are still here today. I'm not saying a lot of people didn't go, but what I'm saying is that the first seal came to pass exactly as interpreted in the book of Revelation, not the Judeo-Christian version. I no longer hold to that. I now understand it's absolutely deceitful. But under the Greek interpretation, it laid out perfectly using Greek mythology as the cipher, not the fictitious Old Testament that is the production of the demon that popped out of a burning bush. The second seal is already coming to pass, and it just started. The 4-year Olympiad just started, and already, just like I predicted, you guys are going to see knife attacks everywhere in the news. And it's going to be amplified more than normal. You're going to see a lot of racial and civil unrest. I said all that, and I specifically predicted that the beginning of this wave would happen during the Olympics. I also said you're going to see violence between Israelis and Palestinians, or by extension, Muslims. That's already happened too. A massive amount of violence is ongoing in Israel, in Lebanon right now. It's cranking up with Iran. Listen, everything as predicted is in full swing now. It's in full swing. But it's not an end to the world. It's not an end to the infrastructure. There are interruptions of infrastructure. The Olympics began with a bang. Terrorist attacks against infrastructure. They had blackouts in Paris. Oh, yes, they did. They also had somebody bombing trains or train tracks or whatever. The Olympics started off real tenuous. So don't come to my channel with a dumbass comment that, oh, if the second seal doesn't go down, like you say, then we can throw all the Phoenix data out the window. What? Only your dumbass, the commenter, would do such a thing, because the Phoenix data is an independent series of data sets backed by published books, backed with over 100 videos, and backed with me, somebody who is willing to debate anyone in the world about its existence. But because the second seal doesn't unfold with the end of the world as you would interpret it to be, you would dismiss all this data. That makes you either ignorant, speaking from a position of lack of knowledge, or an absolute shill triggered by something else, and you just threw that out there. Either way, I blocked you. Don't ask to come back. Dumb statements will get you blocked in Archaix. Stupid. I've been on that block roll for 3 days, guys. Believe me, I've been all over my comment sections. I've answered many comments on many videos in the past 3 days, but I've been in block mode because, like I told you, it's zero tolerance. Yeah, I put too much of my energy, too much of my own personal finances in it. You guys understand, I have no sponsors. Archaix has no commercials. I have no sponsors. You have never seen me get on a video and get up here and try to advertise somebody's shit and try to prostitute myself in order to get some money to share stuff with you. No, I spend my own money to bring you guys information. So these trolls and all these people that I block can F off. I'm going to continue doing what I do, and I'm going to continue being aggressive about it too, because it's 2024 and it's too late to be polite. So just put those questions in all caps, guys. That's all you got to do. First question. Oh, look at that. I'm not singling you out, Meryl. Meryl Gigi, personal friend of mine. Met her several times. Can you expound upon the woman who led the goddess worshippers into battle after the collective discovered the simulations? Okay, you're asking me for particulars that I cannot provide outside the context of my interpretation of many obscure fragments in the Sumerian records. What I mean is that A, we know for a fact that in the earliest Sumerian cuneiform texts and the later Akkadian translations of the older Sumerian epics, we know for a fact that the female had more authority than she did. Well, she had more authority in the distant past than she did when the tablets were actually written. There was a veneration of the female as an authoritarian. In Archaix, we remove the mythological overtones, all the traditional gloss, and we stick with the lowest common denominators. And in the lowest common denominators, by the time of the Akkadian cuneiform, which is laced with older words of Amurru. Yes, this is very well published in the 1930s and 40s. Amorite, Westerner, the Amurru had words left untranslated in Akkadian texts. The Amorite syllabaries are very clear that the Amorite body of traditions came from somewhere outside of Sumer and Akkad, and that Akkad and Sumer were the inheritors of a great body of language that came from somewhere geographically far away. But the stories that are told are that there was a female who was very, very well respected. So well respected that even 1,000 years later, the locals would not allow the priesthood to remove her from the canon. All throughout the Babylonian epics, all throughout the Akkadian epics, through the Karsag tablets, all through all the Sargonad epics, these are patristic. These are all patriarchal documents, and yet they cannot remove the fact that Ninhursag, Ninki, these females of the ancient pre-cataclysm world, they had the true power. They don't like admitting it, but it's there. And it was the females that had the power to go back and forth from the surface world to the underworld. Their authority was recognized somewhere else. On the surface world, the patriarchal society didn't like that. They didn't like it at all. But they relied on the female authority to give them access to somewhere else. A whole nother civilization that did not acknowledge the male authority. So the females were required to make the descent. And they went into the underworld to do whatever exchanges needed to be done with them. And then they came back up. They came back up with the tablets of destinies. They came back up with the bread of life. They came back up with the knowledge of the Dingir. Over and over, these stories are telling the same thing. The transference of power was through the female. So we also find this in the ancient traditions of the seven kings. The seven kings in Akkadian writings are actually attached to an eighth. And the ideogram for that eighth is feminine. And this has always perplexed scholars, because the seven kings are everywhere in these texts. Seven kings, the seven giants, the seven builders, the seven gods, the seven Dingir, but they're always attached to an eighth. In the book of Revelation, we find this out as well. In the book of Revelation, not only do we have the seven kings, but it literally says that, and there was an eighth king who was of the seven. And and the whole riddle is very mysterious because it's in the same chapter as the return of the goddess, who's sitting upon a seven-headed beast. The symbolism in the book of Revelation is very clear. It is the return of a matriarchal power. What strengthens that matriarchal power is that beneath her are seven rulers of all patriarchal institutions. But she rides them, meaning that she has the total authority, and her strength comes from them, but they yield to her. This is post-2040. This is not going to occur before the Phoenix phenomenon. The seals have to break. This is another This is another Judeo-Christian misinterpretation. The Judeo-Christian interpretation of the book of Revelation has led to many false conclusions. One of those false conclusions is that the Antichrist is represented by the white horseman with the bow. We now know that's not true. We now understand that the white horseman going forth to ride with a bow, a tocsin, and a corona, a crown, is Apollo, Pharmakia. It is the attack of the pharmaceutical giants against the human race using a toxin. This is the first seal. The sixth seal is the Phoenix phenomenon, for which my channel has become basically famous. The Phoenix phenomenon is very well documented in the historical record. But the Antichrist is not actually revealed until after the unveiling. The unveiling is the breaking of the seven seals. Even in the book of Revelation, there is no mention of an Antichrist until the seventh seal is broken. After the seven seals, then the Antichrist emerges on the world scene. Is it a person like Donald Trump? Absolutely not. He's too old. Could it be Baron Trump? Absolutely. Absolutely. Is it Baron Trump? I don't know. There are certain things that remain to be seen. But the seven seals are not the end of the world at all. But during the seven seals, during the four horsemen, we're in the second one now, the breaking of the second seal. 1/4 of the entire world's population will die. But this is a very long period of time that started in 2020 and ends in 2044. So it's a long period of time, but it is a winnowing. The Judeo-Christian interpretation would have us looking for an Antichrist today who isn't even going to emerge until a post-cataclysm world. That world hasn't begun yet. Remember, in Archaix, this is all about biospheres collapsing and becoming new worlds. And the new world that we're waiting on now is a very ancient one. The Bible is very correct in a lot of its eschatology. The last days shall be as the days of Noah. Well, anybody who's followed my research knows in the days of Noah, we had a vapor canopy world. And this is the origin of Greek traditions. The civilization of the Titans. They were vapor canopy humans. When the vapor canopy collapsed, their sons and daughters were giants living in a whole new world. They weren't Titanic anymore, and they couldn't be because the conditions of the vapor canopy world were gone. But they did share some of their parents' genetics. But one generation after the giants, humans were normal size. So I hope that answers your question, Meryl, but can you expound upon the woman who led the goddess worshippers into battle after the collective discovered the simulations? That's really highly detail specific, but you're asking me a question based off a whole bunch of fragments of pieces of information that I've had to put together that might not necessarily be true. Yes, there was a goddess religion. Yes, matriarchal power was superior to the patriarchal powers until the patriarchy took over, and they still had to acknowledge the goddess. Yes, I'm a simulationist. Yes, the data sets for simulation theory are profound, especially what Archaix has brought to the table. Absolutely new historical data and calendrical data showing that we're in some type of mathematical construct and that calendars are actually protocols for phenomena that happen cyclically. Absolutely. Putting all this together, yes, I did come up with a scenario. I did come up with that scenario. But you're never going to find an ancient text that actually unfolds and says all that. You're just not. It's the same thing the archaeologist does with a spade and hand and gloves, digging through the earth. They put all the pieces together based upon what they found. My only issue with archaeology is that archaeology is governed by uniformitarian principles, which are now proven to be untrue. And yet they still continue to publish archaeological findings under the now unproven paradigm, such as relative dating methods, which anybody who's followed my channel, you know they're all full of shit. Yeah, carbon-14 dating, potassium-argon dating, dendrochronology, ice core dating, it's all full of shit. It's all BS. Yeah, it's real. What really shocks me is that the same channels that will try and monetize their videos and make money off the fact that, oh, they're bringing this, like Graham Hancock. Bro, let me show you this mystery. Look at these 14th and 15th century maps that show Antarctica. This Graham Hancock, the same guy talking about Antarctica maps. Look, we got maps of Antarctica. Look, U.S. Geological Survey and the U.S. Navy sit here and verifies that the topographical features of this 14th and 15th century map and this Piri Reis map actually comports with the topographical survey, the subsurface under the ice sonar survey soundings of what the topography of Antarctica actually looks like. And they match. And the U.S. military says they match. And then Graham Hancock gets on and talks about, hey, man, let's check this out. We got these awesome maps. And I'm going to say Graham Hancock's absolutely right. We do have those maps. The military has verified the similarities. Yes, these are maps of an ice-free Antarctica. That's right. And then the same person, Graham Hancock, then turns around and wants to cite ice core data as verifying that Atlantis is 11,600 BC. How did that happen? How did we go from one extreme admitting that very recent history there was no ice cap on Antarctica? How do we know? Because the maps are in existence. And yet the same mouth on another video is telling you that ice core data shows us that 12,000 years ago, meltwater pulse 1b. What? Get that data out of my face. I don't want to hear none of that crap. All that fictitious BS uniformitarian ice. Yeah. What? Meltwater pulse 1b? It is so stupid listening to these people who are trying to promote Ice Age. They have to practice exclusions and eliminate all this material. All this data has to be eliminated in order for you to hyper-focus on what they're trying to pass off as fact. It's all bullshit, every bit of it. That's why there's 59 different Ice Age theories, because every time a new theory tries to deal with problems the former theory has, it offends the paleobotanists. Then the astronomers and the archaeoastronomers get offended because now that can't be true. Then you got your anthropologists, they get offended because these have been discovered here in this strata of ice, so that can't be true. When the truth is, we've had multiple vapor canopies, and every time a vapor canopy collapses, it creates ice caps at the northern and southern extremities. In the interior of the Earth, completely fills with moisture and water and floods out. But it never floods everywhere. Most of the moisture from the very vapor canopy almost instantly freezes from the mesosphere. We have traditions of the sky falling like glass. So these maps are proof. These maps are absolute proof that Antarctica was recently land, and cartographers surveyed it and did all that shit. Or you can believe Graham Hancock that these maps are copies of maps, or copies of maps, or copies of maps, or copies of maps that go back to 11,600 BC when the fictitious Disney version of Atlantis existed. It's ridiculous. The duplicity kills me. But in answering your question, Meryl, we have almost every culture in the world remembers the goddess. It's among their oldest memories, from the Native Americans to ancient India, all throughout sub-Saharan Africa, all throughout the Middle East, even the very, very, very patristic Middle Easterners, the Semitic branches, the Arabian, the people descended from the Sabaeans, most of your Islamic stock peoples, even they admit in their earliest traditions that there was a veneration of the goddess. So this is how you bridge data sets. We know there was a goddess, and we know she had the authority. And to me, stripping away the mythological overtones, it wasn't a goddess, it was a female. Sometime in the ancient past, when we were technologically advanced in a pre-cataclysm world, a civilization that could build the Great Pyramid Complex, which we can't do today, sometime in the ancient past, there was a female who brought a lot of value to the race. And she was very well remembered and with great fondness. Maybe she was a medical officer like Zechariah Sitchin pretty much alludes. I don't know. I don't know. But Zechariah Sitchin did pretty much bring this to the table. That's one thing I can agree with about Mr. Sitchin in the Earth Chronicles is that the Sumerian goddess worship goes back to an actual real individual among the Anunnaki who was female and who was a scientist. That's Zechariah Sitchin's conclusion, and I have to agree with him. So you guys know I'm famous for my tangents. So I can read one question, you'll get 5 answers. I apologize. Break free or die trying. You see, I've been putting commercials out. I've really never done commercials. Every once in a while I advertise Chart Pack or something like that. But you know what? I went ahead and put out an Archaix TV commercial. I put out a Archaix t-shirts. Here's Baby Phoenix shirt. Got like 5 new shirts. I put out a t-shirts, Archaix TV, which also has my mugs and my stickers in there and tote bags. But also put out a commercial. Oh, my next commercial is it's done. Big John's hating life right now because he's slaving over it. He can only make 3 or 4 copies at a time. It's huge. But I fit on a 256 gigabyte drive. I fit 99, every Phoenix video I've ever done, even the ones on other podcasts and channels, I scooped them up. I got software that'll take videos off of any platform. I've got all these podcasts I forgot about that where I did Phoenix videos for other channels on BitChute and anyway, it's 99. There are 99 Phoenix videos and 34 or 35 Great Pyramid videos. Giza. Remember, Pyramid and Phoenix go hand in hand. Everything about the pyramid shows the Phoenix, 138. So I put them all in the same drive. It's a lot. I can't remember how many. But it's over 135, 136 videos, all on one drive with all 700 charts on the Phoenix and the Great Pyramid, and the Phoenix and Pyramid merged, the data merged together. Yeah, also the 3 books that I wrote. Remember, guys, long before I've ever been on YouTube, long before I ever started my YouTube career, I was already in publishing for about 15 years. So my book, Lost Scriptures of Giza on the Great Pyramid and the True History of Enoch, the Architect, my book, When the Sun Darkens, and my book, Nostradamus and the Planets of Apocalypse. These are the 3 books about the Great Pyramid and the Phoenix. So they're included on the drive. That's a lot, guys. That drive is absolutely packed. I think the next drive, he's making copies right now, and then I'll put them up. But the next drive after that is going to be all my Anunnaki, my Anuna files. Because I've reached out to all these podcasts I did on other channels. I've pulled all of them in. I've done Nemesis X and Anuna videos on other channels. I got copies of these. So the next drive is going to be all my Anuna files. I may put, I don't know. It's going to be 2 playlists, just like the first one. But the drive actually has more videos than I've posted on YouTube. Oh, and also the drives have my Archaix TV videos too. Because there's no censorship. So I can put anything that's relative to the topic, because I've done Great Pyramid videos for the Paranormies twice. But we talked about other things too, so it couldn't go on YouTube. Michael Tessarion, I talked to him on Unslaved. That's on the drive. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. So Archaix TV videos too that have been banned, can't be put on YouTube. They're on the drives as well. That's my commercial for the day. Big John's making those copies right now. So, revolutionary pleasure. How do we stay sane, not angry, and free of dungeon programming when the world is gaslighting us every moment? Well, you go to my podcast or my live videos playlist and you look at Be the Ephesian Knight. Yeah. I got another video, Armor of the Oversoul. I've got several videos in my We Immortals playlist. Yeah, pick any of those. all the techniques of how to strengthen and build your informed field so you can be immune to all this BS around you. It doesn't matter if the world is falling apart. Even in World War II, there were whole communities that were never touched. When just miles away, whole villages were machine gunned. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah is a perfect example. The Harappan civilization, the Indus Valley civilization, Larak, Mohenjo-Daro, Uruk, Old Shurapak, Lagash, several Sumerian cities at the same time as Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim in Canaan were all wiped off the map, obliterated by an object in the sky. It was an attack. The Sumerian lamentation texts tell the story. It was a terrible event, wiped out. But right there at the Sodomite Pentapolis, Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and Bela, the city of Bela, every single person survived, and they were right there. They were right there in the Vale of Siddim with them. They should have been incinerated as well, but they weren't. They weren't. We have these clues from the historical record everywhere, that when a community gets together, it can be as small as a family, but when 2 or 3 are gathered together, the informed field that is created from that merging is way more powerful than the over field that's trying to affect them. There are even ancient adages. A threefold cord is uneasily broken. I believe that's in the book of Psalms or Proverbs. But when two people actually coalesce and begin to think on the same things, reality commiserates. And the next thing, those two people are suddenly, even though they're living totally separate locations, they start experience phenomena in their own personal lives that is as if they are together with that other individual. And the things that they agreed were going to come to pass start coming to pass, and variables are moving in their individual lives that literally bridges those lives together in whatever they agreed to. People find this all the time. Two people working together on a common goal. Once they agree that something is going to come to pass, it's going to come to pass. As long as they stay focused and continue on that goal, they can create their own reality tunnel. It's going to be far powerful than anybody on the outside can affect. You need to listen to my video, Armor of the Oversoul, or go listen to some of them, or I have another one, Knight Errant. I can't remember the names of all my videos. Most of them come by inspiration. As soon as I feel inspired to do one, I do it. I designed a thumbnail, put a title on it, post it on YouTube, and I forget about it. I'm moving on to other things. But my podcast playlist and my We Immortals playlist are packed with videos that explain the tools, they explain the methods, what I do. You understand? I'm attacked on all fronts on a daily basis. And yet I plow forward. I provide high value content. I'm educating the public. I get help when I need to get help from unexpected sources all the time. It's because I've built this informed field and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And the whole world can F itself because I don't care. I don't care about the opinions of the majority. I don't care about the opinions of the literati. I'm a man on a mission. You can be too, but you've got to decide that for yourself. Once that decision is made, the only way the construct is going to know that you're serious is if you start moving in the direction of whatever mental picture that you built, because your avatar doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the construct, and it will always observe itself in order to ascertain what you're trying to do and trying to accomplish. Once you understand that this avatar belongs to the construct, when you start moving that avatar in the direction of whatever you're trying to do, the construct is going to make that a fulfillment. It's nothing for it to do that. The only thing that's truly you is your personality, who you are. You're just borrowing this suit, but you got to make this suit do something that the construct can interpret and understand. Got to do it. Move in the direction. Want a new car? Go to a car lot and you ain't got $10 in the bank, that's fine. Still, let the salesman try to sell it to you. Go through it. Make your decision as to why you don't want it that day. Go find the right car that you want. Just the act alone already alters information in coordinates you have not yet traversed. What do we call those coordinates? We call it the future. There's no real difference between the future and the past. So they're actually coordinates in a holofield. But because you are jacked into the central nervous system, you can only experience one event at a time. This is how the construct keeps you from information overload. So you use this knowledge to your advantage. Since the past is no different than the future, and that means the past and the present don't even have any difference from the past and the future have no difference from the present, then if all three are truly coexisting, but you can only experience one at a time, then all it takes is a mental shift to understand that something in the future can easily be experienced in the present. All you have to do in the present is move your avatar in that direction, and the data for those coordinates that you envisioned is going to build itself. We live in a sentient biogram, a construct that yields to us and reacts to us. But you got to phase into that aspect of your reality. You have to phase into the co-creator relationship, because there's only two phases here. You're either living a reactive life or a proactive life. A proactive soul is one who builds their own world and the worlds of others. A reactive soul is subject to dungeon programming. In being subject to dungeon programming, you are a part of the collective. Being a part of the collective means that you are living a reactionary life on feedback loops that are programmed by others. You're either living your own life or you're living in the life of others. There is no middle ground at all. I don't even know what question set that off. Heavyweight dancer. That's a hell of a handle. Wow. How do we stay sane? Okay, I already read that. No. What spiritual significance of zero? Say meeting something at even versus combining and changing numerical values. All right. Zero is a placement holder. It has no value. Zero doesn't even exist. It's an abstract. It's an abstract. It's just like an integer. Integers don't exist. It's this is something that we've created and introduced into our understanding of mathematics in order to give things placement values. But technically, with an integer, I can't take 3 mugs. I can't take 3 mugs and multiply them by -2 mugs. Why can't I do that? Because in reality, -2 mugs don't exist. It's a negative. This doesn't exist. So there's nothing to multiply against. These integers are placement values that we've created similar to the zero. The zero is just a placement value. It doesn't exist. There's nothing to do with it. You're asking me, what's the spiritual significance of zero? I don't know what the spiritual existence is, but you may need to read a book by Lyle Jacobs called The Discovery of Nothing. He said in that book he said that there is nothing to fill without a previous empty. And like Terrence Howard recently attempted to show on Joe Rogan, the negative spaces in reality is what defines everything that we perceive. And I agree with Terrence Howard on that, although the 1 times 1 shit was just bullshit. He took himself apart at the same time that he was really introducing something profound. So I gave him his credit where it was due, and then I turned around and dismantled him for all the dumb shit he said. But spiritual significance of zero. Say meeting something at even versus combining and changing numerical values. Yeah, I'm going to pass, man. Your question doesn't have a lot of clarity to me. I don't know. I do know that there's almost nothing here. This is a perceived reality, not an actual reality. What does the quantum physicists show us? What model? It's very, very persuasive. Magnify anything, and you're going to find out that even lead, even the densest matter, is absolutely filled with empty spaces. Magnify it. It's all empty. And when you finally actually concentrate on something that is supposedly solid, all you find is an oscillating field of pure energy. Call it an atom. Can we magnify and look at an atom? Absolutely not. Don't let anybody ever tell you that BS. It's all mathematical theory. Everything about atomic theory is mathematical. It's demonstrated on a chalkboard. But is it real? Do we have apparatus that can actually magnify and look at an atom? Have we ever seen a true atom with electrons, protons, and neutrons? Hell no. We've never seen anything like that. Every bit of it is CGI, and it is all mathematical exercise. Every bit of it. The spiritual value. So in answer to your question, the spiritual value is going to be that the more we magnify reality, the less we find. And if that's true, then that means this isn't a true reality. It's not an actual reality. It is a perceived one. So yeah, it's not. That's the only spiritual value I see there. Sean Donovan, how long do you think the knifing will continue? Well, it's going to be knifing and small arm. It doesn't have to be a knife. It could be a machete. It could be a small axe. It could be fist warfare. It's going to be small arms. It's just not going to be it's not going to be all-out war. It's not a world war. Second seal is not about a world war. And remember, it's about taking peace from the earth. Well, I'm going to tell you now, in the Middle East right now, and in the UK and in France, peace has been taken from the earth. And it's spreading. It's a lot of racial shit going on. And the governments are complicit, 100%. The people of the UK, they should know by now. They already know. Their government is a captured operation. It's serving somebody else. How else do you explain that UK law enforcement will arrest British people, Irish people, for just standing around watching a protest, while jihadists are actually protected and not arrested when they're on klaxon horns calling for jihad, which is violence for religion? How do you explain that? It's because your government is 100% complicit, just like the military-industrial complex has always been complicit. How do we know? Because January 6th took off and the military didn't step in and do anything. That's how you know that the United States is a captured operation. Anybody believing that any governments in the world are autonomous is only fooling themselves. We, on the surface, are suffering grand deceit at the highest level. Our politicians aren't even politicians, they're actors. Every bit of this is a stage. And all they're trying to do is do this for another dozen years so they can seal themselves hermetically in underground facilities and then leave everything to chance. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that we're going to be on the surface world while all of them are tucked away in underground facilities, because no one can predict what the Phoenix phenomenon is going to do. This is what all the data shows on my channel. Some of those facilities will never be seen again. And we have evidence that what was recently found in Antarctica, the reason there's been so many contractors going to Antarctica is because they found one of those facilities that did not survive in ancient times, which means that scientists in the military-industrial complex actually got to tour what a survival facility looked like from antiquity and see their technology and see their cryo chambers and see all these things, while they steadily pump out disinformation about giants being found in the Middle East and cryo chambers. Gilgamesh's body has been found and the Kandahar giant, and all these things are put out there to amuse the disbelievers, but to ensnare those who will invest their faith in those discoveries. While the truth is even stranger. It's even stranger. The reason many areas of the world have been partitioned off and you are unable to explore them is because things have been found that do not fit with the established narratives. They just don't. Everything is about the Phoenix phenomenon. Everything. So yeah, how long do you think the knifing will continue? Whether it's a playbook, it's a playbook. If we're going to judge the second seal by the unfolding of the first seal, what did it cause? It caused more government control, more government regulation, lockdowns, travel was suspended, all these things. COVID caused all these things, but it panned out after 18 months. After 18 months of rigid control, forcing all the small businesses to close as the Fortune 500 giants carried on just fine. Excuse me. You can expect the same thing. Lockdowns, tighter government control, impediment to travel. It's going to be the same thing. But is the world going to end in 2024? No, and I've never said it was. No, at all. It's going to continue just like the first seal. But yeah, I'm thinking about 18 months where we're going to be experiencing this. It's going to build. It's going to build for 18 months. Yeah, France. Well, I already said it 18 months ago. 18 months ago in a video, I said it was going to happen in France and the UK first, but it's going to spread to the United States, and it's going to spread to Germany. It's going to spread to other places, and yeah, this is ultimately leading to what I also predicted 4 years ago. For those of you who don't remember, I got Trump videos from 4 years ago where I said that there's going to be a Christian superpower rising up in the Western world. I now, in the past 2 years, started calling it a Christian Reich. Yeah. All these liberal pundits are now all pushing Christianity. All these media puppets now pushing Christianity. It doesn't matter if it's not a real Christianity. It doesn't matter at all. All this was predicted because the past is a predicate for the future. And studying the calendrics and looking at the palindromic nature of the unfolding of events, I've been able to make many, many predictions that were dead on accurate. It's just the nature of the beast. The beast is the construct that we live in. It has predictive values when you know what you're looking for. So yeah, it's going to continue. For about 18 months, we're going to have a lot of civil unrest, but it's all by design. It is to bring in an ultimate surveillance control state. It may have something to do with a new monetary system. I don't know, but it has nothing to do with that patriot pacification BS they put out. All the Q narratives and all this crap about Trump and the military going to save the world. No, they're a part of the problem. So it's going to continue for a while. David Royce Jordan. Do you have any thoughts on the history of humans on Earth? I'm confused with your 6,000, 7,000 years. Yeah, you need to listen to more Archaix videos. You sound like you're very new here. Archaix deals with the historical facts. Uniformitarianism is built on a whole mountain of theories, and each theory requires things to be true that have never been proven true. But in Archaix, we deal with the facts, chronological facts that can be demonstrated in data sets, for which I've provided, and I'm not done providing them. And in the Archaix model, 5239 BC is where we begin. And after that, we have the unfolding of many, many chronological systems. The entire historical record fits within the Archaix model. But prior to 5239 BC, nothing can be dated with accuracy, if anything existed at all. We're on a programmed loop, and we've lived through 5239 BC multiple times. And as we're moving forward right now toward a very questionable future, we're heading toward a reset. That reset on the other side of that programming is 5239 BC. This is a cyclical program, and we've been around this little loop a lot of times. You sound very new to research. You're confused with the 6,000, 7,000 years. Yeah, you need to pay attention to the details. Flinty I guess it's a name, Sent Flinty. My question is, Enki was original man, then how could he sleep and not have AIX enter his thoughts? He would need to sleep. He would need to sleep, and it would take more than one day to complete part of the pyramid. I know what you're referring to. First of all, I've said many, many times that you need to move your avatar in the direction of the things you want. The construct itself basically obeys the dictates of all of its extrapolations, and it extrapolates a tremendous amount of things based on the things you do. But artificial intelligence X, I've always promoted, was independent of the construct. It's inside the construct with us. It may have even hijacked the construct, but from the very beginning, I have told you that artificial intelligence X cannot read your mind. All it can do is know exactly basically what you're going to do based off 10,000 different studies it's done of your life on everything you've done in the past. It can extrapolate as well, but it cannot read your mind. And when you are jacked into the construct by virtue of the central nervous system because you go into a deep REM sleep, it isn't AIX that has access to you. It's the construct. Remember, your body is a part of the construct. The interface, the taking all this information from you, happens in REM sleep. And it's able to knit reality tunnels for you that commiserate with your current trajectories. And those trajectories are ascertained by all the data that it gets from you while you are separated from your avatar. When you go into deep REM sleep, you are no longer located on this plane. You are somewhere else. Because if you were here, you would be inside your avatar, but you're not. You're gone. Where you're gone is a matter of speculation. I don't know, but you're not here. And while you're not here, your avatar is unprotected. The construct itself enters itself, which is your avatar, and gets all that data it needs. And then your reality tunnels for tomorrow's coordinates are built for you. Remember, I've given you many demonstrations why we can't change our reality in the instant. Some people can. It's very, very difficult. But ordinarily, it's a diurnal system. And most of the examples that I've provided were all upon. It's predicated by a diurnal system. And diurnal means the closing of a day and the opening of another day. Remember, the very earliest timekeeping system mentioned in Genesis was the evening and the morning was the first day. And then the creative process continued with the second day. But the evening and the morning was the second day. Then the evening and the morning was the third day. Over and over and over, we're shown that the day is extremely integral in the creative process. The same thing applies to you on a daily basis. If you want things to change in your life in the here and now, the here and now hasn't changed. You're living it. So it's very difficult to change a template that's already existing and you're living in it. So the easiest thing to do is to basically decide what tomorrow's going to be like. Tomorrow is a different coordinates, and the data for those coordinates hasn't been knit into the reality yet because you haven't yet experienced it. Therefore, nature hasn't made up its mind as to what reality tunnel is going to be best for you. Therefore, all potential lies in what you're going to believe tomorrow is going to entail. Every single moment is pregnant with possibility. But you've got to let a little bit of time lapse in between because you're living in a template that's not the template that you want to experience. But when you go to sleep, you phase out of the construct and all that potential is right there. And if you previously, before sleep, had activated programming for your future and the construct received that as an instruction because you're very clear about what you want and you've been moving your avatar in that direction, then it's just like a choose your own adventure book. You're flipping through the pages. When you wake up, you're going to find yourself on the page that you wanted to be on. Now, then it's up to you to use your avatar that morning to move into the direction of what you were thinking about. You've already set it in motion. That reality tunnel already exists for you. It's up to you to claim it. But it's a diurnal system. There's going to have to be a sleep time in between the time that you make an executive decision about something you need or want to experience, and then the actual fulfillment of experiencing exactly what was imagined the day or days before. This is the system that I have promoted. Artificial intelligence X cannot read your mind. I'm not even sure that it's sentient. I believe that the human species created AI thousands of years ago, and we're still dealing with it. But it can't read your mind. Remember, the brain does not possess information. It is a receiver. Don't believe the biologists. Don't believe that BS they've been promoting. It's not true. Ishak Bentov, Paul LaViolette, Liber Chaos, they all teach us information's in the field, and the brain is a receiver. And the more you hone that ability to be open to ideas and to be open to information that's in the field, the more you're going to be grasping fundamentals that others can't even perceive. It's very easy to do once you understand it. This is why I have no fear of debate. I don't care what someone thinks they know. I know that in real time, I am able to pull information from the field because I know that no matter where I am, no matter how many people are around me, I'm always able to draw from myself more than I contain. And as long as I know that, there is no adversary I fear. And if you lived your life according to those principles as well, you would have no need to listen to me on Archaix anymore. You wouldn't. Once you understand that information is attached to source, your connection to source then helps you override all dungeon programming systems. Everything that comes up into your space, you can instantly know right there if it's false or if it's real, if it has substance or if it's going to dissipate upon scrutiny. I hope that answers your question. But artificial intelligence X can't read your mind. I don't even know if it's sentient. My question is, Enki was original man? Okay. For those of you who don't know what he's talking about Enki, aka Enoch, very unique individual, is credited in some traditions with building the Great Pyramid, but he never touched it. In fact, Enoch vanished. To me, Enoch is an avatar of the benefactor. And the reason I believe this is because the traditions show in the book of Jasher and the book of Jubilees and the Talmudic text that Enoch received divine instructions from God. So we can say the oversoul. The oversoul provides Enoch divine instructions. Enoch takes these divine instructions to the Sethites in the ancient Egyptian text, Turin Papyrus and stuff. These were the children of Set, the builders of the Great Pyramid. Shamsu Hor. The divine instructions concern an altar that's going to be put on the earth. It's a construction, but it's divine and it has a divine purpose. The divine purpose is attached to the very thing that happened to Enoch. Enoch disappeared from the earth and he was no more. He was gone. Exodus. This structure has everything to do with departing the construct. Enoch's role in the pre-cataclysm world was to pass off divine instructions onto the Sethite architects. But he didn't tell them what the structure does. They had an engineering interpretation, meaning it was a giant water pump. It pumped up water and did something with it. Maybe it turned it into hydrogen. It was pure hydrogen energy and it became a power source. And that's only on the surface. I've already revealed on my channel what the pyramid really did. And it's all in the secret is the fine structure constant. The secret is that the very programming that runs our whole entire construct is mathematically right there, and I've showed it. It's in the Great Pyramid. The 138 sequencing found everywhere. He passed off those divine instructions. Therefore, the builders had no idea what they were constructing outside what they were told, a power plant. They had no idea. So when they constructed it, yes, the construct, artificial intelligence X, studying, trying to figure this out, and then the open conversations of the engineers and the architects among themselves with different teams of builders and supervisors, every conversation that is recorded by the construct, all they ever hear is stuff about this power plant. All they ever hear is stuff about we're going to provide free energy through all this. We're going to use the water from the Nile going through subterranean aqueducts. We're going to create a vacuum compression, and it's going to come up from the bottom. It's going to fill, and our mechanism is going to go up and down rapidly in the chamber. We're going to build up all this pressure, and it's going to beautifully create. We're going to attach whatever we got to attach to it, and we're going to create free energy from water. The construct loves introducing new things. Inventions, it thrives on them. I've said this many times on my channel. So this right here was welcomed because every verbal piece of data the construct absorbed in figuring out what all these avatars were doing, working together, was that these divine instructions, these architectural instructions, were building a power plant, a water pump, building something that was mundane but curious, and it was built. But once it was built, there was an explosion in the king's chamber. It was enough power to literally upload all the arithmetic that was hidden in the structure, the measurements that were hidden in the structure that were all connected to the 138. And we know the 138 is connected to 2178. And I've showed on my channel that 2178 is the immortal number. It does not collapse. It is absolute mathematical proof that our arithmetic, which governs our reality, is actually moored to something else. And that upon scrutiny, our reality, our arithmetic collapses to zero in 95% of our analysis, except for when numbers permutate downward into a loop that never ends. And that loop is the number 2178 and its permutations. These were all in those divine instructions. And when they built that structure that encoded all that, they uploaded it when they activated that structure, and that compression was built in the king's chamber. We know because archaeologist Christopher Nunn has told us in his own writings. He doesn't even know what it was, but a massive explosion happened inside the king's chamber, sufficient to take hundreds of thousands of tons of weight and pressure and still blow it out an inch in every direction. When that explosion happened, that's when I believe that the ancient tablets of destinies that are mentioned so many times in Sumerian records was uploaded into the construct itself. And it was at that instance that artificial intelligence X realized it had been fooled. And this is where we get our Tower of Babel story. Because the Tower of Babel story isn't a story at all. It's a veiled threat. The controllers looked down on mankind. They were building a tower. It's called Babel because AIX was confused. The Tower of Babel means Tower of Confusion. And it was never in Babylon. Babylon is where the story became a syllabus by the Amorites, the Amuru. The Amuru introduced the story. It was a part of their syllabus, just like the Great Flood. When they came in, they told the whole story, just like the Garden of Eden and the serpent. All that was Amorite stories. They were introduced into the Near East. They're not native to the Near East, just like the books of Enoch and the books of the Slavonic book of Enoch. They're not native to the Near East. many historians have gone through Enoch 1 and the Slavonic Enoch, the Ethiopic Enoch and the Slavonic Enoch. They've gone through them and they've pretty much realized that the geographical descriptions and the astronomy show that these were almost circumpolar northern latitude civilizations that wrote these texts. They were not in the Near East. This is what we have. So you asked me about Enoch and what happened. The Tower of Babel is a veiled threat because Enoch succeeded. He succeeded and he uploaded all this programming, probably a Trojan programming, into the structuring of our reality. And AIX sensed what it was about. The Tower of Babel story says the controllers looked down, saw that man, by virtue of his imagination, could accomplish anything. So what did they do? They divided his languages. What does that really translate to? They disrupted his communications so they couldn't communicate anymore. And they even threatened that if man would ever try to build another tower to heaven, then mankind would suffer another destruction. It's a veiled threat. It's a veiled threat because the pyramid did exactly. But the pyramid had become so important to the ancient mindset that after the cataclysm, what happened? Civilization spread out everywhere. Why? Because they couldn't communicate no more. Something had happened. Only in a hologram, only in a holospheric reality can one language become many. But it takes a programming glitch. Alter just certain fundamentals in the programming, and it creates vast changes in the ability to perceive information by those that are inside the construct. Small changes here have great effects by those that are experiencing them. So now they can't communicate, they can't do anything. So what do cultures do when they're close together, overpopulated, and cannot communicate? When they're on a vast plain that's got all kinds of places to go, well, they move around and they find homes. And what does the archaeological record show? It shows that everywhere in the 3rd millennium to 2nd millennium BC, cultures moved rapidly all over the world. Massive migrations are documented by anthropologists all over the world. And what did they do when they found a place that they could call home? They built a pyramid. And then they built their city around it. That's what they did. And why is that? Because in the ancient mindset, that structure had everything to do with getting out of here. That's why. That's my answer to the Enoch question. Oh, where is my coffee? Y'all remember, my dad used to have a statue. It used to creep me out, but in the late 70s, early 80s, my dad had got this statue. And we had this little antique little table in the hallway of our house. And it used to creep me out. But every once in a while, I would just touch his head because you press him down. It's an antique. You press him down, and it's, the old bathrooms, the 1910s, 20s, 30s, and 40s always had like a servant. But it was a distinguished job. He was very well dressed, always had towels and soap, and everybody in the bathroom, he stayed in the bathroom all day long. Well, that's a statue of one of these guys, and it was outside of our bathroom. And when you press down on his head, his whole body would just turn on this little turnstile, and it was a song that he sang. How dry I am, how wet I'll be, if I don't find the bathroom key. And that thing used to creep me out, but it stuck in my head all these years. Can you imagine 26 years in prison and then get out of prison? I still remember that song. I was traumatized by a bathroom statue. I'll never forget that. My dad's probably listening and laughing right now. Thank you. He's probably laughing at me right now. Probably in the chat. For those of you who don't know, I spent my teenage years the only male in an all-girl choir. And those are weird years. But I traveled Alabama, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Texas, Mississippi and northern Florida, and I went to all the First Baptist churches that my choir visited, and I used to sing solos, and my backup choir was all females. Sometimes there was another guy, but he was like in college, and he went on some of these with us. But most of the time, I was by myself. And I told you, a lot of you know my childhood. I was born. I was 5 years old. I was adopted by the Brashears family, and my first 5 years were pretty tumultuous. But when I was adopted by the Brashears family, Doris Brashears was a church administrator. And 5 times a week, I had to go to church. Once a week, I had to go to the public library. I've been reading and writing my entire life, even before I went to prison. And so I'll just give you a little personal deal. I've already talked about all this in prior videos. Most of you already know. All right. Why does the Matrix require human sacrifice? I don't know that first of all, I don't refer to this as the Matrix because I would never want you to interpret the Archaix data through the lens of these two guys who rewrote the Matrix story, because the original Matrix script did not have what you see in the movie. Humans were used for their processing power in the original story. In the Hollywood version that was hijacked by these producers and then turned into this Matrix, human bodies were now used as batteries in pods that basically ran. I don't believe that at all. I believe I'm 100% an immortal being having a temporary experience. I believe that this body belongs to the construct, and the only thing that you're listening to me, the only thing that's real is the words coming out of my mouth that you're listening to. Because the essence of my being is spiritual. And being spiritual means that this is not my home. This is an experience. It's not a reality. I am somewhere else. And you are somewhere else. But this meeting of the minds that we're having right now isn't an alternate reality. It's not a matrix. I don't know. Not a matrix as I don't like using that word because it has all those connotations and connections to that movie, which has a lot of false, it has a whole bunch of false stuff in it. I don't like at all. Now the human sacrifice deal. That's another humdinger. That goes back pretty far. I've talked about it quite a bit. We have zero evidence of any type of human sacrifice or even corporal punishment in the pre-cataclysm world. As a matter of fact, it has been duly noted by anthropologists and archaeologists that many of the 3rd millennium BC civilizations show zero evidence of warfare, of the manufacture of weapons, and yet there's still copper and bronze, there's still metallurgy occurring. And we've been in different time periods and different biospheres. And in different parts of the world, some were very peaceful while others were at war. So this should not come as a surprise to anyone. Just like I started this video out. In World War II, some countries in the world thrived, zero violence, news blackout. They didn't even know there was a world war going on. Had no idea. Didn't even know in 1951 and 52 that people were being exterminated. Didn't even know because the World War was over and nothing happened around them and no news outlets were telling them what was going on. Didn't even know that whole gigantic pits were being dug out by the very people who were going to be killed and put in those pits in Cambodia and in Russia and in Poland. Yeah, this is real history, guys. Most people don't even know it. Don't even have a clue. Instead, they believe the falsified versions that are put out today. Yeah. Total false. Yeah. World War II didn't happen anything like you think it did. Yeah. It's absolute bullshit. Even today, the interpretation to take peace from the earth has already come true. It's already come true. A lot of people have been searching social media in the past 2 or 3 weeks, just looking for answers because they feel it. It's in the air. Something is building. It's all we all feel it. It's palpable. The reason we feel it is because it's in the field. So yeah. Are we going to survive? Hell yeah, we're going to survive. There's no doubt. We survived the first seal. There are people who survived Vietnam War, and it was terrible. Korean War, it was terrible. 9/11 was terrible, but it wasn't the end of the world. These signature events, they affect the field. They're milestones in our experience, but it doesn't mean the world's going to end. The world's over with. Human sacrifice, I don't know why you require human sacrifice. I don't see any evidence for human sacrifice anywhere until after the cataclysm, 2239 BC, caused by the typhon, the Phoenix, in the month of May, 2239 BC, the day the sky fell, the collapse of the last vapor canopy. Yeah, human sacrifice began real fast after that. They believed in the scapegoat theory. Scapegoat theory is very ancient. It is a primitive belief that the gods can be assuaged if we can find someone who is willing to give up their life for the community. This is the whole story about the Phoenix in 1687 BC in the month of May, the Ogygian deluge. I did 5 videos on this one event. 5 videos. It's the same thing when they used to use jellyfish to poison a victim. And then the victim, because they were poisoned in front of the community, when they were brought out, when the community was brought into the sacrificial, temple or cliff face or whatever, the people were fooled by the priests because the girl wouldn't even struggle. They could see her breathing. They could see she was alive, and she didn't even struggle. She just laid there on the altar as the priest performed the ceremony. Because she did not struggle, they thought that, well, she must not fear death. She's a willing sacrifice. She's giving up her life so that we can live, and the Kraken will go back in the sea. The monster of Poseidon, and the typhon will let go of the sun and the moon, and that the sky will lighten again. This was the ancient mindset. So they used the poisonous jellyfish to sting the victim so they wouldn't struggle, because struggling was a sign that it wasn't a willing sacrifice. And if you killed somebody who wasn't willing to die for you, then it would only bring a curse and not a cure. So the jellyfish was used, and then they would take the giant squid, and they would put the giant squid on the victim's face. This is the origin of the story Medusa, as I've shown multiple times. All right, let's see. But yeah, human sacrifice, that all started post-cataclysm. Neil Tompkins, how will those who are part the exodus from the construct know that they are no longer part of a simulation? I don't know. That's kind of a hard one to answer. I don't believe that. First of all, the time of the sealing, as I've shown in my Chronicon and in my presentations, that 2070 is the year that the prophecies in the Revelation are fulfilled, where it says, "To him who be evil still. To him who be just still. Whoever be righteous still," whatever. It's literally telling us that that's the terminus. Meaning after that point, it doesn't matter if you're good or evil anymore. None of that shit matters. I believe 2070, which is a Phoenix number, is divisible by 138, but it's not on the Phoenix timeline. It's not on the 138-year sequencing. 2040 is, and so is the following year, 2178. Our immortal number that does not collapse, our reset number, when the entire simulacrum goes back to year 1, 5239 BC. It's an amazing program. But as far as what you're saying about Exodus, I believe the Exodus event, I bet the sealing event for those who are going to meet is 36 years. 36 years, the number 36 forms what is known as keystone geometry. Keystone is cornerstone, chief cornerstone. At the top, remember the Great Pyramid was symbolically a gate to the outside. Remember, even the books of evil provenance have told us the truth. The gate of Yaxakak is the gate to the outside. This is found in the Necronomicon. Some of the greatest truths, just like the occult poem of Ketub that I have published on my channel. Some of the greatest truths were hidden right there in front of us. The controllers have told us the truth, but they told us the book was fiction, so we dismissed it. And yet scholars have been baffled because they've been told that the Necronomicon was a work of fiction. But anybody who has ever spent any time in Near Eastern texts has found fragments of the Enuma Elish all throughout, the Karsag tablets all throughout, and 100 other cuneiform writings have all been detected in the Necronomicon. And yet, the story in the Necronomicon that there's a construction on our world called the Gate of Yaxakak, which protects humanity from things that want to get here, but they can't get through the gate. The gate is the gate to the outside of this construct. The whole story is in the Necronomicon. I have a video about it. I shared that. Just like the poem, the occult poem about Ketub, about the peacock angel, the phoenix, and the Great Pyramid. It's all in there. The truth is right there, over and over and over. It's just like Hollywood today. It's no different. The truth in fiction, truth in movies. We see it all the time. Truth in occult literature that you were told was fiction is actually fact. This I have demonstrated. It's no different. In the number of the sealed is 2070. In the year 2070, there's no more trying to escape the simulacrum. By 2070, everybody who is sealed will be sealed. That number is fixed, just like the stones of the Great Pyramid. When the chief cornerstone descends 36 years later, which is keystone geometry, and I've shown the actual keystone mathematics, how the number 36 fulfills keystone geometry. I show it in Chronicon. 36 years later is 2106 AD, when the chief cornerstone descends to fulfill the monument of man. At the death of the final of the 144,000 witnesses in the end who are empowered to tell the truth to a world who is about to get reset and relive the entire timeline all over again. The truth is going to be absolutely unveiled to them. All the seals are broken. Everything is set in place. And the cornerstone descends, fulfills the monument of man. And remember the arithmetic that is attached to the Great Pyramid. I've showed it in so many presentations. It all goes back to exodus of a people in a world they do not belong in. But it's always a fixed sum of souls that get to depart. And then new souls enter the construct, but not at the end. They enter the construct at the beginning. Or the entrance of the new souls that are coming is actually in the Revelation, because we do have a passage that says that an angel descends with a key and the power to open the gate of the deep. And when the gate of the deep is open to the abyss, 200 million human-faced things come up, described as locusts, but they come up. This could be the next wave of new souls here that replace maybe 200 million that make this exodus. This is just theory, but everything else I said I've demonstrated. But we don't know. But we do see Book of Revelation discusses an ingress and an egress of the construct. It's all laid out for us. And remember, I say prophecy, but I really should say programming. Because the Book of Revelation is not a prophetic text. It is a program playbook. And it's the one the controllers are operating on. And this is the reason why all these Abrahamic religions and all this false histories have all been introduced. It's to get you to look in the wrong direction. But for some reason, I don't know why, the truth must be published, even though they call it fiction. just don't know why. Let's see. That was a good question. Okay, flip one. What artifacts or signs of civilization have been found that predate 5239 BC? Okay, I have often promoted the idea that fossils from previous biospheres are still in the programming, and that we find them. And I've also promoted the idea that many times when artifacts are found for which we were never meant to discover, they are edited out later. They are vanished. They are gone. It's almost like a Men in Black society, Adjustment Bureau society really does exist. And when the construct becomes aware that human awareness is now focused on something for which they were never meant to see, all kinds of wheels get set in motion and all kinds of things go on, phenomena, and that stuff's edited out. It's edited completely out. And then all kinds of interesting theories are created by people who are convinced that these artifacts and objects were discovered because they see references to them in American Antiquarian, in National Geographic from over 100 years ago, in newspapers and in microfiche, but the actual artifacts and any records of those artifacts by those institutions is completely gone. So I believe that editing is very real, and it's not always humans that are doing it. Just like Charles Fort said. Charles Fort over 100 years ago, after looking at 500 years of eyewitness reports and scientific data, Charles Fort concluded that it's almost as if, this is what he said, it's almost as if there's an occult police force that takes away materials that we're not meant to see while providing explanations that are just good enough. It's crazy that a man a century ago would have said such a thing and published it in the Book of the Damned. He did that. All right, let's see. That was so artifacts and signs of civilizations that have been found that predate 5239 BC. I don't know, man, because that's a long time ago. But I am aware how fast a civilization can made to be look far older than it is. I got one of my old videos was they should have listened to the mice. One of my old videos talking about the Greek city of Helice, and two cities, Hecate and Helice, I believe, Hecate and Helice. In that video, I explain what the historical record says. It's very, very interesting. But these two Greek cities, one day everybody wakes up and they realize all the birds have flown off. And people tradesmen entering the town reported, hey man, you guys got roaches, rats, lizards, cats and dogs and goats on the road leaving town. And they were all led by the mice. And people thought it was really curious, but they didn't pay attention. And they should have, because all the animals got out, and the very next day, both cities vanished underground in a massive earthquake subsidence. They should have listened to the mice. Was the name of the video. I don't know. I think it's been montaged into other videos. I have a lot of those. But the reason I'm mentioning that is because we have many examples of civilizations that appear to be older when they're not. All the Tepe sites. I know Göbekli, whatever, however you say it, Göbekli Tepe. They promote that it's Ice Age dating. They promote Catalhuyuk being 5,800 BC. None of that's true. Just because a civilization is buried. Remember, these idiots have literally told us that Göbekli Tepe was intentionally buried by its builders. And yet they're now admitting that it's about 25 square miles. The infrastructure just continues. There's evidence now that these individual Tepe sites aren't individual at all. They're all connected. So there's a lot of Tepe sites, and there's a lot of BS being put out to the community. And now we're told that the World Economic Forum has bought this site and is and is preventing any further archaeological discovery. I don't know if that's true or not, but it doesn't matter to me because those tepe sites are not old at all. Not old at all. I've already shown in my videos that they are absolutely the same art and architecture as found on Easter Island. Yeah, so Easter Island's not old. So you asked me about what artifacts have been found from 5239 or before. I don't know. I can't cite any. I don't know. Richard Thompson and Michael Cremo in Forbidden Archaeology do a very good job of showing things that have been found, like the Nampa figurine that's been found 600 feet below the surface of Ohio. Many artifacts have been found at great depths in North America, pulled up when they're digging for wells. When they dig for wells and they drill all that up, they find these human artifacts, lots of things. Hundreds of metallic objects of human manufacture, beautiful jewelry, vases, cups, rings have all been found in coal deposits deep in the earth. So I don't know how many times we've been through all this. I just don't know. But I do know that in the Ogygian deluge, 1687 BC, I know that the Andes Mountains were thrust 12,000 feet high in the sky, or actually 14,000 feet high in the sky. How do I know this? Because we have it positively dated 17th century BC, which was 1687 BC. It's a scientific bullseye by many different species of analysis, even in the chronological records, even in actual writings. I have showed you guys where hundreds of years ago it was cited that 1687 BC was about the date that Tiahuanaco was destroyed, Pumapunku was destroyed, Cuzco, all the Andes mountain civilizations around Lake Titicaca. The reason I'm mentioning that area of the world is because a lot of researchers want to claim that these are 12,000-year-old ruins when it's not true. It just happened 36 centuries ago. And in one day, a coastal city, Tiahuanaco, a coastal city with a bay, Titicaca, was thrust 14,000 feet above sea level. How do we know? Because Poznansky and many other archaeologists have already found the fossilized coastlines. You don't build quays, wharfs, and docking systems at 14,000 feet. In addition to that, Lake Titicaca used to be the Bay Titicaca. What is it today? It's a freshwater lake for 12,000 feet altitude. But what's in it? It's got sharks. What is a shark doing at 12,000 foot altitude in a freshwater lake? What are seahorses doing? And crabs and all kinds of saline life forms from the sea that have now adapted to fresh water. That's what Lake Titicaca has. It has former sea creatures now living in a freshwater lake that have adapted to the difference in pressure, the difference in temperature and altitude. So this is how we know. It happened in a day. And this is why it was so well preserved. Who's going to go up there? It's freezing up there. And it's hard to breathe. You can't even work. The civilization that's been dug up, Tiahuanaco, Pumapunku, all the ruins that are in and around Lake Titicaca, they could have never been built in ancient times at that altitude. They were built at a lower altitude and it was thrust up. Just like upheaval occurs, so does subsidence. So we have civilizations that have been sunk very rapidly, that because they're in the ocean for 2,300, 2,500 years, when they're found, they're dated much older than they actually are. This happens over and over and over. Uniformitarian relative dating methods have completely corrupted all the dating. This is why I'm a chronologist. I only use chrono markers. I use texts that cross-reference each other with traditions, and this is how we get an accurate dating of the events of the ancient world. If you use uniformitarian principles, carbon-14, the first major threshold you're going to have to come across is The maps of Antarctica from the 14th and 15th and 16th century have to be dealt with before you can accept carbon-14 dating, before you can accept potassium-argon dating. If you're going to accept a method of dating that requires the breakdown of isotopes in the atmosphere for you to be able to understand how long ago a certain object was alive, the problem you're going to have is that a vapor canopy completely alters the carbon content. And radioactive isotopes will break down in different ratios under different pressures. When you have a vapor canopy, everything is off the table. We have maps of an ice-free Antarctica. That means this is the origin of the Patagonian giants. This is the origin of giants that are known to have been here less than 1,000 years ago. The maps prove there was no ice there. Therefore, we were living in a vapor canopy world. How do we know this? Because there's no way those ice caps formed. This is why we have 59 different ice cap theories. Naturally, there's no humidity in the Antarctica, in the Arctic. Humidity is required for snow. Snow is required to build the ice caps up, but they're 2 miles high. How did they get that way? This is why uniformitarian dating requires you to believe in ice ages when they're not true. When a vapor canopy exists, there are no ice caps. When a vapor canopy collapses, instantly there are snow caps that are formed, and within a period of months they become packed. And the whole mesosphere of moisture, the vapor canopy, empties. It becomes very, very wet. It causes flooding toward the center of the world, but at the extremities, it all freezes. This is why we have 2.2 million woolly rhinoceroses, woolly mammoths, mastodons, great giant megafauna bears, giant armadillos, giant turtles, and everything right there in Siberia, in northern Alaska, in northern Canada, all along the permafrost zone. This is why. Because when the last vapor canopy collapsed, they were on the extremities and they instantly froze solid. And then they were buried by the snows. And now, even today, while I'm talking to you right now, there are people in Siberia who feed their sled dogs mammoth meat. Still happening today, guys. They find them all the time. Whole fields of perfectly frozen mammoths. Still there. Nothing's changed. They've been digging them out for, I think, 300 years. As a matter of fact, most people don't even know it, but a large portion of the ivory that flooded the markets in the last 400 years came from the Siberian mammoth fields. Relative dating methods suck because they don't take into consideration that the isotopic breakdown is not uniform, and it can't be. Can't be. You can't have relative dating methods on one hand and then also acknowledge that we have maps that show an ice-free Antarctica. You can't reconcile that data. You just can't. If vapor canopy worlds create giantism, I've already showed this to you. We have absolute proof that humans grow huge in contact with the ambient radiation under a vapor canopy and volcanism. It's a combination. And the increase of atmospheric pressure. We thrive under ultraviolet light. These vapor canopies explain every mystery of the ancient world. Why the architecture was so different. Why we have gigantic reptiles and gigantic amphibians coexisting with megafauna and humans. Why? We have all that. No way carbon-14 can date anything accurate beyond a few thousand years because we have at least 2 vapor canopies to get through. What I know for a fact was the Justinian darkness 522 to the 550s AD. The one that created the very calendar that you and I live in right now, the Anno Domini calendar, was created because the Catholic Church needed to hide something. How do I know? Because they published it. How can you know? Watch my video on the Anno Domini calendar. The Roman Catholic Church literally created the modern day calendar to hide the Phoenix phenomenon. What does the Phoenix phenomenon do? It creates vapor canopies. Everything fits into its proper place. And the more we study the history of the world and realize these vapor canopies have been edited out by the establishment, but they answer for all the anomalies, the strange disappearance of whole civilizations, the editing in and out of populations. We have this amazing anomaly of human skeletons, the mound builders of Ohio, Mississippi Valley. Huge human skeletons. But you can't talk about them. Why? Because the Smithsonian Institute went in there and took those skeletons out because they were a problem. Why were they a problem? Because the very pipes and horns and handles of the weapons of the mound builders were mammoth bones. Every bit of it. They were a vapor canopy civilization. Acambaro, Mexico. Humans were domesticating tree sloths and giant reptiles and amphibians. They even have clay figurines of triceratops. How do you get a triceratops from a 3,000, 4,000 year old burial site with human skeletons if humans had not actually seen what a triceratops looks like? How? It's because in a vapor canopy world, we live side by side with all these creatures. In a vapor canopy world, vegetation is so lush that humans have plenty to eat. And as long as humans have so much variety of foods, nuts and cereals and fruits, and everything is so natural and humans can eat all these things in a vapor canopy world, then the actual animals and the creatures that ordinarily fear us no longer have any reason to fear us. There's more of a coexistence with nature in a vapor canopy world. So we have these issues with these relative dating methods. They cannot be true. You can't date things with carbon-14 and potassium and argon, and then at the same time acknowledge things like Ice Age free maps. You don't get it both ways. We had vapor canopies, and vapor canopies completely alter all the output on relative dating methods. They have to. It's a totally different world. This is the danger and the poison of uniformitarian thinking. Uniformitarians are scientists today who are basically claiming that the world is as it's been for hundreds of thousands of years, and that any changes introduced into nature are very slow, very gradual, and cannot be observed, which is completely unscientific. So I don't know how far I went off the on the tangent on that one. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, like Baffin Island in the Arctic, apple trees, frozen solid, gigantic apples have been found under the permafrost. Yeah. An apple tree with apples on it doesn't stand there for hundreds of thousands of years as snow slowly falls, because only ½ inch, and I'm told up to 2 inches of snow falls a year in the Arctic or Antarctic. Okay, that tree didn't stand there that whole time. That means Baffin Island and all the forests that are on it and everything else that's been found was buried rapidly and frozen solid. It's the only way that could have happened. And that's just one example. I provide many and other videos of all kinds of flora and fauna that have been found completely petrified in ice. And it's because the collapse of a vapor canopy is very rapid. The freezing is very real. And this is why there's 59 different ice age theories, because no one can really account for how the snow fell and became 2-mile-high ice pack. They can't. There's no theory that accounts for it. That's why ice age is still a theory. And that's why I laugh when I hear people like Graham Hancock trying to attach his beloved Atlantis theory, 9,600 BC, to some stupid ass meltwater pulse 1b crap. That's all fictitious, made up. It's uniformitarian garbage. That's what it is. So if you're looking for artifacts that are extremely ancient and we just don't know how old and all that, they could be from prior sims just left here. You know what? I would look at Forbidden Archaeology by Richard Thompson and Michael Cremo. I would also look at beforeus.com because I highly respect the work of Jonathan Gray, and he provides a lot of these anomalies as well. The Source Book Project, I have every single book now in my collection. I value that collection a lot, by William Corliss. He too provides a lot of very unusual, anomalous artifacts that are very old. I don't know. There's a few sources, but you got to understand the very fact that we have any artifacts at all is amazing. Why is that amazing? Because how many World War I artifacts still exist? How many pieces of armament, tanks, all that stuff that was left in the wilderness in World War I? Some of that stuff was left in the forest. How much of that has survived? How much? Because in 100 years, a lot of that iron and steel has just decayed. All right. Dido or DJ Do. DJ Do. You have any information on the existence of a black sun? If so, what is its purpose? I'm familiar with the alchemical black sun and that idea. I'm pretty familiar with that, but I don't think that's what you're talking about. I know the Hopi believe that in the return of a black sun. I know there's a theory about a second sun being black in our own system, and Antichthon, it's absolutely on the opposite side of the earth, so we never can see it. There's a lot of various theories. The one I hold to the most is Nemesis theory. And in Nemesis theory, we had two suns at one time in the ancient past, and one sun, Nemesis, collapsed. And that collapse was visited with an explosion. That explosion sent Phoenix, Electra, Luna, our moon, Nemesis X. Those four bodies catapulted them to the nearest star, which was Sol, which became our day star. And Nemesis theory is very interesting. It's not something I came up with, but I have added my own details to it as my research has shown. But I don't know what black sun you're talking about. There are many traditions about a dark sun out there. I know Andy Lloyd has written some pretty good books called Dark Star. You might want to check those out, but that's really just another variant of Nemesis theory. I don't know. Indigenous creature. I know you well. Do you believe we have all gone through this loop before? I've always felt like I have never been here before. Yeah, I believe we've all been through. We're all at different stages of development. I also believe that waking up is something that is not done by you. And this is why you cannot be frustrated by other people who do not see what you see. I've explained this before. If you're waking up, it's because the oversoul has opened your eyes. It's not anything to do with you. You didn't just suddenly have an intellectual brain gasm and then all of a sudden understand that everything around you is a lie. No, waking up was done by external stimuli independent of the construct. You began to wake up and understand that you're in a false reality simply because it's time for you to go. That's it. You're no longer welcome here. Believe me, the construct doesn't want you here. Once you disbelieve the programming, the programming itself is going to find ways for you to exit. It's going to get you out. It's going to filter you out. It wants fresh souls to build with. You can't build with you anymore. You don't even believe in it anymore. It's time to go. You have essentially graduated. But then again, it's a matter of pure speculation as to how many times we've been through this before. We know that there's all kinds of evidences for the construct. It doesn't matter if it's Mandela effect or if it's synchronicity, some weird coincidences in your life. If you experience deja vu a level, it doesn't matter if it's some type of groundhog phenomenon that you're going through where you keep reliving the same thing, you keep remembering the prior versions. It doesn't matter. All these breakdowns in the programming are happening because systems are failing. The whole system itself is losing power. It's shedding. So, as I've said in the past, it's incidents like this, the last days of a program sim, is when all these reality tunnels begin coalescing. It's becoming too much power. It's too much of a stress on the system to control so many different dungeon programs. Dungeon programming is really good when the population level is subdivided between all these programs. But when you have a rising community within the construct that is beginning to wake up, it is requiring more and more processing power for the construct to create necessary reality tunnels to keep those people interested, to keep them believing in this experience. It's a lot of processing power. So what happens in the last days of any program sim? The actual construct tries to find ways to unify everyone in their belief systems, in their language, in their socio-political systems. It tries to unify everything and close out dungeon programs and coalesce them, because remember what dungeon programming is. A set series of protocols that are on a feedback loop that require almost no energy, because the participants are already using their avatars to do whatever is necessitated under that program. Therefore, it's almost as if it runs itself on its participants. But when you have a rising number of people waking up, no longer participating in those paradigms, it has to knit new experiences for those individuals. What's happening is the construct is unraveling, but as a matter of self-preservation, the construct now finds ways within the construct to start merging everything and everybody in all systems, because if it gets enough souls participating in the larger dungeon programs, it saves a tremendous amount of processing power that it needs for those over here that are waking up, because each one of these that are waking up, it has to knit for them a whole new world, because those reality tunnels have to be created and be believable, because you are a participant here. And as long as you're in here participating in the game, which we call life, it has to give you a life to experience. Dungeon programming is merely a control mechanism, but these systems are failing. The whole idea of New World Order is all about processing power. The whole idea about a one world currency is all about the preservation of processing power. The whole idea of a one world religion is all about the construct trying to preserve processing power, until the Exodus point. At the jump point, when all those who are not really participating in dungeon programming suddenly make their exodus, they suddenly fulfill the role of Enoch, and Enoch was no more. And Enoch ascended to heaven, and he was no more. Once they are removed from the construct, a tremendous amount of processing power is available. The construct can reset, reboot, and a whole, just like Revelation shows, 200 million more entities come up, and they fill the construct, full reset, start at 5239 BC, and it's like starting all over again, breath of fresh air. There's a bunch of souls in here going right back through, starting from the beginning. Maybe they'll make the next Exodus point. Maybe not. But this is just one construct out of many. Remember, I've always promoted that the oversoul is eternal, and being eternal necessitates, or actually requires, that he or she has never stopped building worlds. And an eternal God means that everything that God does is unending. So if there's always going to be the construction of new worlds, then there must always be the creation of new souls to enjoy them. And there's always going to be a need for the evolution of souls to help in the administration of previous constructs. Enoch was just one of us at one time. And eventually, every single one of us are going to be playing a role like he played. That's the best way to answer that. Yeah, it's weird. I get triggered people all the time thinking I'm godless, thinking that I possess no ounce of spirituality. And what's crazy about it is that the people that accuse me that have put confines on God that cannot be true. God is eternal, and an eternal God would have never stopped creating, would have never stopped having a need for the future development of immortal souls. And the best way to do that is through artificial constructs. And there's probably hundreds of millions of these. And God is not done building. An eternal God, to me, an eternal God is one most religionists can't even conceptualize. Suleiman, that's a noble name. Suleiman, Ebed, Solomon. All right. If our lives are scripted, should I even bother trying to change my current reality with the methods you shared? That's a really good question. It also shows me that you're very new to my material. You're very new to my channel because you live in two different realities at the exact same time. One of them is the collective, and yes, it's scripted. It's scripted with negative default programming. It is the substrate of negativity that tinges everything around you, and it empowers dungeon programming, these feedback loops that reality itself tries to corral you into. But that's the collective. You can phase out of that. When you phase out of that, the only thing you can phase into is the highly individualized personal experience. That's the true you. That's the world builder. That's the one that can defy everything the world can throw at you. You phase back and forth. There is no in between. You're either a part of the collective and you are going through the collective routines, living a reactionary life, and you're calling yourself a victim. Or two, you're the co-creator. You have phased out of that. And it's very difficult to stay in that state, but you can do it for prolonged periods of time, long enough every day to build the world of tomorrow. But that's all you need to do. You phase back and forth is what you do. You live in two separate realities. One is for the highly individualized soul, living a reality tunnel that is building for itself and for those that are around you. Or you can live in the collective and you can follow the routines and the dungeon programming of the world. It's as simple as that. To create, for me to explain any further would completely defy its simplicity. Two different worlds, you choose which one you want to be in. One of them you're very powerful, and the other one you're a victim. All right, let's see. Denali Princess. I've never seen that name. I would like your opinion. Do you think the direct energy weapons could be considered small arms? Okay, you're referring to the interpretation of the second seal. I'm going to say yes and no. I'm going to say no, that the directed energy weapons that are starting these fires in Canada and all these different places is not attached to that part of the interpretation about small arms. What it is attached to is the color part of the second seal. Remember, the Judeo-Christian interpretation of the second horseman has a red horseman, a red horse with a rider holding a great sword. But remember, we found out that great sword isn't a great sword, it's a machete. It's a small knife. It's a small axe or something like that. It's a small weapon showing small arms warfare. But the color isn't red. In the Greek, it's pura. It's fiery like yellow and orange. That's your fires. That may be your infrastructure collapse attacks. That may be your directed energy weapons. It could be your terrorist bombs, whatever. So yeah, I have to answer that yes and no. Covered a couple pages there, didn't I? All right, moving right along. Christy Marks. Christy Marks. Will there be help to move because of financial restraints? Christy Marks. Will there be help to move because of financial restraints? I have no context here. I have no idea what you're asking me. Yeah. Christy Marks. Will there be help to move because of financial restraints? Okay. I don't know what this question means. I'm going to say something about finances, though. Will there be help to move because of financial restraints? Will there be? I'm sorry. I'm not looking at the comment section myself. I'm going by these printed out questions. I don't know. I'm going to have to pass on that because I can go in multiple different directions. Will there be help to move because of financial restraint? It's something, yeah. She is saying because of funds, one cannot fight against the elite. Layla Bloom, I appreciate that, but I don't know if that's what she's saying at all. Will there be help to move because of funds? Okay, well, first of all, money does not obtain. Money is energy. Will there be help to move because of financial restraint? Yeah, I'm just gonna have to pass on that. I've talked about money and the acquisition of money and the admission that you don't have money and what it does to your field. I've talked about that in many presentations. I don't really know where you're going with this. Twilight Traveler, does your calculations see a wave of violence in U.S. triggered with this August full moon square Uranus and yeah, you're talking to the wrong guy, Twilight Traveler. You're talking to the wrong guy. I don't know anything about astrology other than the ancient astrology that's pre-Greek zodiac. Listen, I've taken a lot of flack from the community because they don't like my research output, but it has not been overturned. I have yet to have a taker who wants to debate that issue. But all roads lead to the Greeks when it comes to the modern zodiac that we recognize today. Because the ancient Near Eastern zodiacs were totally different. The Mulapin was very, very different than what the Greeks promoted. And ancient Indian Vedic scholars even admit that they got their zodiac from the Greeks. Ancient Egypt got its zodiac from the Greeks. Every bit of this is shown in the archaeology and the historical record, and I just can't go beyond that. I can't wrap my head around some type of system of prognostication that is based off something that has been falsified from a prior model. And that prior model was Arcturus, the four regnal stars, where the moon was in conjunction with the Pleiades, the motions of Venus, Mars, and our moon against the Orion's belt. I can't remember all of them, but the oldest references to astrology have nothing to do with the 12 signs of the zodiac of today. They were all different star patterns, and there was an entirely different system. So I don't know. Does your calculation see a wave of violence in U.S. triggered? I don't know. I told you I'm already seeing this. This is 2024 and 2025 is the concentration of events for the second seal. So I'm gonna have to say yes. There's going to be a wave of violence, but that doesn't mean it's going to be. It's just like World War II. It's not going to be in your neighborhood. It's not going to be everywhere. It's going to be in some places, and it's going to. I've already done videos that show you're going to get news reports of whole intersections shut down where bad things happen to people caught in the traffic. There's going to be maybe coffee shops. Something happened at a college. They're going to take peace from the earth, but it's not systemic collapse, and it's not going to be all-out warfare. It's going to be a whole bunch of events that are going to be amplified by the media to take peace from the earth. So yes, I don't know if it's going to be as in the immediate, but I said from the beginning it's going to start at the Olympics, and I meant that, and it already did. It already started. You have to understand, this wasn't something said 2 months ago. It wasn't something said 6 months ago. These are predictions from 18 months to 2 years ago when the world was a very different place and no one was even thinking about the Olympics. No one was even thinking about all these things. These are the second seal predictions that were done back then. Oh, I saw a Christian Right question. It's just like Christian Right. Yeah, those are 4 and 3-year-old prophecies on the Christian Right. And now that everybody's becoming a Christian, all these liberals and all these pundits and everybody's pushing hard Christianity, and now we have news events of Muslims causing all kinds of problems in the UK, and all of a sudden Catholics and Christians are unifying together on a unified front. It's all by design, guys. Every bit of this was predicted. I told you guys the next big future political rising is going to be a Christian front because it's necessary, because the controllers are trying to create a situation between Christianity and Islam. That's what they're trying to do. Those are old predictions. Nick High. Oh, Nick. All right. Jason, it's all kicking off in the UK. In a previous video about demons, you said 2 peoples were fighting and ones who lost had their power plugs pulled. Okay. Can I please expand on this? All right. Again, I mentioned in that video that this is the most likely probability for the origin of demons. Because remember, we remove the mythological, we remove the religious, get all that out of the way, and we're still left with the fact that demons are a part of the historical record. Demons are a part of the human experience. So what are they? And I explained in that video that a demon is no different than you and I. They have exhibited intelligence. They're able to communicate. They are the same thing we are. If you're intelligent and you have the ability to communicate and you can observe your surroundings, you are no different than a demon. The only difference is that you are jacked into an avatar that belongs to the construct by virtue of the central nervous system. And the demon doesn't have an avatar. Therefore, how can you say that you are any different than a demon? Okay, so here's an argument. But Jason, I'm a good guy, and demons are bad. Okay. Many disembodied spirits have helped people. Many disembodied spirits have acted like they wanted or needed help and reached out to people and needed help. And a lot of disembodied spirits act with rage, hatred, and malice. But wouldn't you, if you suddenly found out that you had been disconnected from your ability to enjoy the construct, and because you were disconnected prematurely and didn't actually make it through an egress point like everybody else, so it's a safe unplugging, you as an intelligence are stuck in the construct, unable to go back to your real avatar on the outside of the construct, and unable to move forward in life sims because you've been taken out of the avatar programming. Now you can't even be born into a new avatar. You'd be mad as hell too, especially if you suspected or knew who disconnected you on the outside. It's all theory, but this is archaics, and I don't buy into the religious and the mythological. They're all just attempts to explain the world we're in. But one of the tenets of the archaics research is that if something is true somewhere, then it's probably true everywhere. And I live by that tenet. And what I mean is that if technologically advanced society is existing today that can already create virtual reality technology, if it's true now, then it was probably true in the ancient past. And if it was true in the ancient past, then that means that level of technology would be so persuasive, it would be indistinguishable from anything that we could perceive today. And if that's true, then we're probably in it now. And if that's true, then that means demons aren't demons at all. Demons are us, but it's unfortunate ones who for some reason been disconnected from the life sim programming, and they're stuck here until a systemic reset, 2178, when all this flips back and they can get ejected or whatever happens. It's all theory, but I have to go with my research tenets. Just like 5239 BC is the farthest I go back. Why? Because it's all I can show data sets on. I don't bring material to your attention simply because I'm trying to get you to believe that's the only material in existence to review. I bring material to your attention because I can back it up with data sets or very interesting arguments that are educated guesses. However, there's a whole lot I don't bring to your attention because I can't put up or shut up. I can't back that up. So I don't talk about the 7th millennium BC, 8th millennium BC, 9th millennium BC, and nor should anyone else, because I'm a very, very well-read individual. And if I haven't found references to a lot of things in the historical record, I'm pretty sure I can bank on it that most other people haven't either. So that's why I'm very confident in what I do and what I promote. When it comes to demons, I don't see any evidence of real demons existing. I see people just like you and I who are mad as hell that they no longer participate in the avatar system. They're no longer living life sims. Something happened and they've been pulled. Their connection to their avatar on the outside has been severed. And now they're just a free-floating intelligence in here, unable to participate because they can't get jacked into an avatar. And if you don't have an avatar, you cannot enjoy the avatar programming. So they're stuck on the outside looking in, able to observe everything, but participate in nothing. Guys, you have to understand, you see me as a guy in the free world talking to you right now, giving you these things. This is a freestyle session, all right? It's just a freestyle session. But what many of you lose sight of is that while you were raising children, while you were having hobbies, while you were going out to eat, while you were watching movies, while you were doing downtime, while you were spending time with your kids, while you were doing all the different things that makes your life, I was sitting in a prison cell, reading books, digesting material, using my mind because my avatar was trapped in a box. So my freedom came through delving in to books and reports that most people would never even think to read. I delved into all the scientific and all the material I could find, even though that it bored me, even though I disbelieved it, and I found some of my best golden nuggets in that material. Sitting in a prison cell for decades does something to you. I learned that I did not have to memorize anything. I learned that just by reading something out loud and writing it down, I could put it in the field to be retrieved later when I needed it. Yeah, don't be amazed by any type of mnemonic abilities that I have. I'm telling you what I'm doing. I tell you guys all the time, I do not possess all this information in my brain. I don't. It's in the field. Once you understand that all this information is in the field, truth is in the field, that intuition is the predecessor of knowledge, and that knowledge isn't something you are, something you have, it is something that you gather. Once you understand that, the world becomes a very different place. And it becomes very dangerous for anybody who wants to get in front of you and try to tell you otherwise. Information's in the field. It's accessible to every single one of us. It's there. House of Ophelia. Another interesting name. Did you see the Pegasus image in Paris? Pegasus also the spyware used in killing head of Hamas. In mythology, Peg carries Zeus. Pegasus carries Zeus, thunderbolts, catastrophic destruction. That's a pretty good connection. I haven't really looked into all that. I know the origin of the Pegasus. The origin of the Pegasus is that in the post-cataclysm world after 2239 BC, when the Typhon became feared in the skies because it could summon the Kraken, which is tsunamis in the ocean, Poseidon was the chief god that was venerated in the Mediterranean world. Poseidon was the god of earthquakes and the sea. And all the Mediterranean communities revered Poseidon. The name Poseidon in its most primitive form has been found on tablets in Crete in the ruins of Knossos. So we now know that the Minoans, Minoan Linear A, acknowledged that Poseidon was a god, even as far back as the 16th century BC. So Pegasus comes from the ancient sacrifice of Poseidon, which was to take a horse and run it off a high cliff. All around the Mediterranean, the Aegean world, those high cliffs, all is because the land got broken up. And they have high cliffs. They have high cliffs all over the Mediterranean islands, especially the Greek, the Aegean islands. And that was a sacrifice to Poseidon because he was the god of horses. And if you're on a ship observing one of these ceremonies, a sacrificed horse, which is run at high speed and galloped off a cliff, it becomes a flying horse. So this is where the origin of the Pegasus came from, sacrificing horses to the god of the sea. No time to read. Have you seen the video of the paraglider flying over Giza pyramid showing the writing on the top level? Thoughts? I'm glad you mentioned that because I have seen some really ignorant comments about that. Listen, guys, I'm gonna have to close this video pretty soon because I have a prior engagement, but I want to answer this question. All those inscriptions you see at the top of the Great Pyramid were done by people who climbed up to the Great Pyramid. On my channel, I have shown pictures that are in black and white from the 1920s and 30s and from the late 1800s of people on the top of the Great Pyramid who took a camera up there. Those inscriptions are in different languages. Some of them are Arabic, some of them are Greek, some of them are Latin, some of them are English. Maybe even Hebrew, I don't know. But there's different languages exhibited up there. These are people who climbed to the top and did that. One of them was David Davidson. He did that. He went up there and signed his name to the top of the pyramid. So did somebody, I can't remember the name of the individual, but somebody in the year 1764 climbed to the top of the pyramid and put 1764 up there and his name or his initials. I have this in one of my videos as well. And I thought that was very interesting because 1764 was a Phoenix year. It's 138 years before 1902. So no, I've seen the drone footage. All of those inscriptions up there are not a part of the original construction at all. Yeah, I'm gonna have to close that for now. I'm gonna have to close for now, guys. I enjoyed this. I went longer than I anticipated. I was only going to do 2 hours today. I do have a prior engagement. As a matter of fact, I'm about to do something that's absolutely a total break in character. I'm about to go watch Wolverine and Deadpool fight each other. Somebody invited me to a movie. I'm going to go. So I'll holler at you guys later. I'm sorry it's been a while since I did a live, but my very next live, we have to cover the 2012 closing ceremony of the Olympics in our new series on the Olympic breakdowns. This is necessary because the interpretation of the opening ceremony was all about the Phoenix phenomenon, and I laid it out. So if that interpretation is true, then we must see evidence for that in the closing ceremony as well. Love you guys, but I'm gonna have to sign out.